The mop hit the marble floor with a wet slap. Christmas dinner. My in-laws' penthouse. 38th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A tree that cost more than most people's cars. And Vivian, my mother-in-law, had just handed me cleaning supplies in front of 30 guests. "Elena, darling," she said, her voice dripping with that particular kind of sweetness that feels like poison. "Since you're not really contributing to the conversation, would you mind? The caterers missed a spot near the bar." The room went quiet, not silent, just that specific frequency of quiet where everyone's still talking, but they're also watching, waiting to see what the poor girl will do. I took the mop. I always took the mop. Because for 3 years, they'd thought I was just Marcus's little mistake. The broke girl from the wrong side of town who got lucky. The one who wore Target dresses to charity galas. The one who drove a Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door. The one who apparently had no ambition, no pedigree, no future. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that for the past 8 months, I'd been the lead forensic accountant on federal case TAS 847B, the audit of Ashford Chen Properties, their empire. And every single time Vivian handed me a mop, I was memorizing another discrepancy, another shell company, another thread in the web of fraud that I was methodically, carefully, professionally unraveling. But that Christmas, that was the night everything changed. Because Marcus, my husband, the man I'd loved since we were broke college students sharing ramen in his dorm room, pulled me into his father's study after dessert. I saw the divorce papers on the desk. Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. Because this story, it doesn't start with the mop. It starts 3 years earlier when I made the mistake of thinking love was enough. I met Marcus when I was 23. Junior year of college, I was working 2 jobs, campus, library, and weekend catering, to pay for my forensic accounting degree. He was in business school, working on his MBA, and he seemed different from the other guys. Thoughtful, kind. He'd stay late at the library just to walk me to my car. He'd bring me coffee during my morning shifts. He told me about his family, the real estate empire his mother had built, the pressure he felt to be perfect. And I told him about mine. My dad, who worked construction for 30 years. My mom, who cleaned houses to put me through community college before I transferred to the university. We were both trying to prove something. Him, that he was more than his family's money. Me, that I was more than my family's lack of it. We got married right after graduation, small ceremony. His family didn't come. Vivian said she had a business commitment in Singapore. His sister Diane posted Instagram stories from a resort in Bali the same weekend. His father Raymond sent a card with a check for $500 and a note that said, "Best wishes for a happy future." Marcus said it didn't matter, that we'd prove ourselves. That love was enough, and I believed him. The problem started small. First, it was Thanksgiving, 6 months after the wedding. Vivian invited us to the family estate in Connecticut. A literal mansion, 12 bedrooms, staff quarters, a fountain in the circular driveway. When we arrived, Vivian met us at the door. "Marcus, darling." She kissed both his cheeks. Then she looked at me. "Oh, Elena, how nice. You'll be at the children's table, dear. We have several business associates joining us, and the conversation might be a bit over your head." I was 29 years old. The children's table had Marcus's teenage cousins and a 7-year-old who threw mashed potatoes at me. Marcus said nothing. That night, in the guest room, I asked him why he didn't stand up for me. "She doesn't mean anything by it," he said, scrolling through his phone. "That's just how she is. Give her time. She'll warm up to you." She never did. Year 2 was worse. By then, I'd been recruited by Sterling and Associates, a boutique forensic accounting firm that worked exclusively with federal agencies. It was my dream job, the kind of position I'd worked my entire life to achieve. I'd graduated top of my accounting class, passed my CPA exam on the first try, and earned my certified fraud examiner certification by 27. But I couldn't tell Marcus's family because my work required absolute confidentiality. I investigated financial crimes, tax evasion, money laundering, embezzlement. I worked remotely most days, traveled occasionally for depositions, and lived a carefully constructed double life. To the Ashford Chen family, I was unemployed. A burden. Marcus's little charity case. At Easter, Vivian handed me an apron. "Make yourself useful, dear," she said, gesturing toward the kitchen. "The ham needs carving, and I'm sure you know your way around a knife. You have that working class resourcefulness." I carved the ham. Marcus's new girlfriend, I'm sorry, his sister's friend, Amber, who was absolutely flirting with him the entire meal, sat at the main table. I ate in the kitchen with the actual catering staff. One of them, an older woman named Rosa, whispered to me as I washed dishes, "Honey, why do you put up with this?" I didn't have an answer. At least, not one I could say out loud. The truth was, I was starting to document everything. Not for revenge, not yet. But because I'm a forensic accountant. Documentation is what I do. It's pathological. It's professional. And some deep instinct told me I'd need receipts someday. I photographed the seating chart. I noted the date. I recorded Vivian's comment about working class resourcefulness in a voice memo on my phone. I didn't know why yet, but I would. Then came year 3, and my father died of a heart attack. He was 62 years old, and he collapsed on a job site. By the time the ambulance arrived, he was gone. I got the call at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in the middle of reviewing bank statements for a case. I dropped everything. I called Marcus. He was in a meeting. He texted back 2 hours later. "Sorry, babe, that's rough. I'll try to make the funeral." The funeral was on Saturday. Small service. My mom, my aunt, my dad's coworkers, the men he'd worked with for 30 years who took up a collection to help with costs. Marcus showed up an hour late, in golf clothes. What happened next changed everything, but before I continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever been underestimated by someone who should have loved you, you're not alone. Now, let me tell you about the envelope. Marcus walked into the funeral home wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Navy blue. The kind you wear to a country club, not to say goodbye to your wife's father. He smelled like fresh-cut grass and cologne. I was standing next to my mother, holding her hand, while the pastor spoke about my dad's dedication to his family, his work ethic, his kindness. My mom was crying. I was trying not to. Trying to be strong for her. Marcus walked up behind me and whispered, "Can we talk? It's important." Not, "I'm sorry for your loss." Not, "How are you holding up?" Just, "Can we talk?" I should have said no. I should have told him to wait. But I was exhausted. Grief does that. It makes you compliant. Makes you think maybe, just maybe, he's going to surprise you. Maybe he's going to tell you he's sorry, that he loves you, that he's going to be better. We stepped into the hallway. The funeral home was old, floral carpet, fluorescent lights, the kind of place that smells like lilies and formaldehyde and sadness. Marcus pulled an envelope from his back pocket. "Look," he said, not meeting my eyes. "This isn't easy for me to say, but Mom and I have been talking, and we think this marriage has run its course." I stared at him. "What? You're a good person, Elena." "Really? But let's be honest. You've never fit in with the family. You don't understand our world. And Mom's concerned that you're holding me back professionally. She's found someone who'd be a better fit. Someone who understands the business. Someone more appropriate." The envelope was still in his hand. "These are divorce papers," he said. "I had my lawyer draw them up. It's all pretty straightforward. No fault. You'll be out of the apartment by Monday. We'll handle everything quietly. No drama." My father's eulogy was still happening in the next room. I could hear the pastor's voice through the wall. A man who built his life on integrity and hard work. "Marcus, I said slowly, carefully, because I was afraid if I spoke too fast, I'd start screaming, 'My father died 3 days ago.'" "I know, and I'm sorry about that, really, but the timing is what it is. Mom wants this. Handled before the holidays. Before the New Year's investor gala. It'll be cleaner this way." He pushed the envelope toward me. "Just sign them, Elena. Don't make this difficult. You'll get your stuff from the apartment. We're not trying to screw you over. You can keep the car." The car. The 10-year-old Honda Civic that I'd bought with my own money? How generous. I took the envelope. My hands were shaking, not from sadness, not anymore, from something else, something cold and sharp and clarifying. Who's the someone more appropriate? I asked. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. That's not really relevant. Who, Marcus? Amber, he said quietly. Diane's friend. You've met her? She's got an MBA from Wharton. Her family's in commercial real estate. Mom thinks we'd make a strong partnership. Amber, the 26-year-old yoga instructor who'd been flirting with him at Easter, who'd sat at the main table while I carved ham in the kitchen. How long? I asked. Elena. How long have you been seeing her? 4 months, but that's not the point. The point is, I signed the papers. Right there, in the hallway of the funeral home. While my father's friends and coworkers said goodbye to him in the next room, I signed every page, dated them, handed them back. Marcus looked relieved. Thank you for being mature about this. I'll have my lawyer file them next week. You've got until Monday to clear out. He walked away. He didn't hug me, didn't say he was sorry, didn't acknowledge that he'd just ended our marriage at my father's funeral. He just walked away, and I stood there in that hallway, under those fluorescent lights, holding my phone. It buzzed with a text from my boss, David Sterling. Elena, the judge approved the warrants. We're moving on Ashford Chen in 6 weeks. How's the evidence package coming? I looked down at my phone. Then I looked toward the parking lot where I could see Marcus getting into his BMW. License plate Ash Chen 1. A gift from his mother for his 30th birthday. For the first time in 3 days, I smiled. Because they had no idea. No idea at all. Let me tell you what Marcus and his family didn't know. 8 months earlier, Sterling and Associates had been contracted by the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. A routine audit had flagged Ashford Chen properties for suspicious activity. Over $47 million in unexplained income over 5 years. A web of shell companies. Suspicious cash transactions. Real estate deals that didn't make sense on paper. The IRS needed someone to dig deep, to follow the money, to build an airtight case. They called my firm, and David assigned it to me. I didn't know it was my in-laws' company, not at first. The case file came through under one of their shell company names, Meridian Holdings, LLC. I was 2 weeks into the investigation before I connected the dots. Before I pulled a property deed and saw Vivian Ashford Chen's name, I immediately disclosed the conflict of interest to David. I expected him to pull me from the case. Standard protocol. You don't investigate your own family. But David surprised me. How close are you with them? He asked. Not close, I said. They think I'm unemployed. They don't respect me. They barely acknowledge I exist. He leaned back in his chair. So they have no idea what you actually do for a living. I said none. He thought about it for a long moment. Then he said, the ethics board will need to clear this, but Elena, if you can maintain your cover, if you can stay professional, this might actually be an advantage. You have access. You're in their home. You hear their conversations. He was right. Within a week, I had ethics clearance. I was recused from final prosecution decisions, but I could continue the investigation. I could gather evidence. I could build the case. And I could do it from inside their world. Every family dinner became a deposition. Every holiday gathering became an intelligence operation, and they had no idea. Thanksgiving, year 3, Connecticut estate. Vivian presiding over the table like a queen. The conversation turned to business. It always did. Raymond, Marcus's father, asking about a property deal in Boston. Diane bragging about her consulting fees. And Vivian, 3 glasses of wine deep, getting careless. The trick, she said, gesturing with her fork, is cash deals. We've been structuring them under $10,000 to avoid the reporting requirements. Raymond handles the paperwork through the Nevada LLCs. The IRS never catches it if you layer it right. I was in the kitchen, washing dishes, wearing the apron Vivian had given me. I had a voice recorder in the pocket. Later that night, in the guest room, I transcribed every word. I cross-referenced the properties Vivian had mentioned with public records. I found 8 unreported sales totaling $12 million. I documented everything: property addresses, dates, sale prices, the names of the shell, companies used in each transaction. Marcus was asleep next to me, snoring softly, and I was building the case that would destroy his family. Christmas, the night with the mop. But before Vivian handed me cleaning supplies, Diane posted an Instagram story. A Mercedes, silver, G-Class, bow on top. Caption: Santa came early, thank you, Mom. I screenshot it, noted the date. December 23rd. Later, I pulled Diane's tax returns. Public record for anyone who knows where to look. Last year's income, $34,000. Her job title, brand consultant for Ashford Chen Properties. A $34,000 salary, a $180,000 car. I added it to my report. Subject number 3, Diane Chen, displays lifestyle inconsistent with reported income, suggesting unreported gifts or embezzled funds. Recommend further investigation into source of luxury purchases. The math didn't lie. It never does. And that was just the beginning, because what I discovered next, it wasn't just tax evasion. It was so much worse. Stay with me. After the funeral, after the divorce papers, I moved out of the apartment Marcus and I had shared. He wanted me out by Monday. I was out by Sunday morning. I took my clothes, my books, my laptop, the coffee maker my dad had given me for my college graduation. I left everything else. The furniture Marcus's mother had bought us. The wedding gifts from people I'd never see again. The framed photo from our honeymoon in Costa Rica, back when I thought we were building something real. I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood across town. Hardwood floors, good light, affordable. I didn't need much. I was never home anyway. I had 6 weeks. 6 weeks to finalize the evidence package that would bring down the Ashford Chen empire. And now I had nothing to lose. The breakthrough came 3 weeks after the funeral. Easter weekend, actually. The last holiday I'd spend with Marcus's family, though they didn't know it yet. Vivian had insisted on hosting at the estate again. Family tradition, she'd said, though I wasn't family anymore. The divorce wasn't finalized yet, so technically I was still invited. Marcus brought Amber, introduced her as a friend. Everyone knew, no one acknowledged it. I served appetizers, I'm not kidding. Vivian handed me a tray of canapes and said, "Elena, darling, make yourself useful. The staff is overwhelmed." So I walked around that mansion with a silver tray, offering smoked salmon and brie to people who wouldn't make eye contact with me, and I listened. Raymond, Marcus's father, had too much scotch. He always did at family events. He got sloppy, emotional. Started complaining to Marcus in the study, not realizing the door wasn't fully closed. "Your mother's offshore paperwork is a nightmare," he slurred. "The Cayman account transfers alone are killing me. Do you know how many shell companies we're running now? 23. Separate entities. I can't keep track anymore." I was in the hallway, frozen, tray in my hands. "Dad, keep your voice down," Marcus hissed. "I'm serious, son. This is getting dangerous. We're moving 8, maybe 9 million through the Cayman accounts alone. If the IRS ever connects the dots, they won't. We've been doing this for 15 years. Mom has the best lawyers in the state. I don't know. I'm getting too old for this. Maybe we should just—" "Dad, stop. You're drunk. We'll talk about this tomorrow." The door closed. I stood there in the hallway, canapes growing cold on the tray, and I felt something click into place. Cayman Islands. 8 to 9 million. 23 shell companies. I'd suspected offshore accounts, but I hadn't been able to prove it. The paper trail had gone cold at a Nevada LLC called Meridian Holdings. But now I had confirmation. From Raymond himself. And I knew exactly how to find it. Monday morning, I was in David's office. "We need to subpoena international banking record," I said, laying out my notes. "Cayman Islands. I have probable cause. Raymond Chen admitted to offshore accounts on recording. Here." I played him the audio. I'd been wearing a wire. Standard practice for this kind of investigation when you have inside access and ethics clearance. David listened. His expression didn't change. He'd been doing this for 30 years. Nothing surprised him anymore. "How much are we talking?" he asked. He said 8 to 9 million. But based on the patterns I'm seeing in the domestic accounts, I'd estimate closer to 15 million over the past 5 years. Jesus. It's not just tax evasion anymore, David. This is money laundering. International wire fraud. This is federal prison time. He nodded slowly. I'll call the U.S. Attorney's office. We'll need a judge to sign off on the international subpoena. That'll take a few weeks. We have 6 weeks until you want the final report. Then you'd better work fast. The subpoena came through in 12 days. Fastest turnaround I'd ever seen. The U.S. Attorney's Office was very interested in Ashford Chen properties. The Cayman banking records arrived electronically. 247 pages of transactions. I spent 72 hours straight analyzing them, shell company to shell company, transfers disguised as consulting fees and property management services, money moving from U.S. accounts to offshore accounts and back again, cleaned and untraceable. Except I could trace it, because I'm very good at my job. By the end of those 72 hours, I had mapped the entire network. $8.7 million in a Cayman account under the name Ashford International Holdings Limited. Signatory, Vivian Ashford Chen. Secondary signatory, Marcus Chen. My husband's name was on the account. I'd love to tell you I didn't feel anything when I saw Marcus's name on those documents, that I was purely professional, clinical, that it was just another case, but I'd be lying. I sat in my apartment at 3 a.m, staring at my laptop screen, and I cried. Not because I still loved him. That had died in the funeral home hallway. But because it confirmed what I'd been afraid to admit. He'd known. The entire time we were married, he'd known about the fraud. He'd participated in it. He'd signed the documents that hid millions of dollars from federal taxation. And he'd come home every night and kissed me and asked about my day and pretended to be a good person. The man I'd married didn't exist. Maybe he never had. I made myself a cup of coffee, wiped my eyes, and I got back to work. Because here's the thing about forensic accounting. Numbers don't lie. People do. But numbers tell the truth every single time. And the numbers said that Marcus Chen was guilty of conspiracy to commit tax evasion, money laundering, and wire fraud. Minimum sentence, 8 to 12 years in federal prison. I documented it all. 5 weeks into my investigation, Vivian and Raymond celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary. Big party, country club, 200 guests. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need an invitation because Vivian had hired the same catering company I'd worked for in college. And the manager, Teresa, remembered me, liked me. One phone call. Teresa, I know this is weird, but I need a favor. I need to work your event this weekend. I can't explain why, but I really need this. Honey, you're a CPA now. Why would you want to serve drinks at a party? Please, I'll owe you. She was silent for a moment, then, okay, but you're telling me this story someday. So that Saturday, I put on a black uniform and served champagne to my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law's anniversary guests. Vivian saw me. Did a double take. Then smiled that cold smile. Elena, how resourceful. I suppose everyone needs a side hustle these days. I smiled back. Just trying to make ends meet, Vivian. You understand. She laughed. Actually laughed, then walked away. And I moved through that party like a ghost. I heard everything. Vivian, 3 glasses of champagne in, holding court with a group of real estate developers near the bar. The trick is 1031 exchanges through straw buyers. You get a shell company to purchase the property, hold it for exactly 12 months, then sell it to another shell company you control. The IRS never catches it if you layer it right. We've been doing it for years. I was standing 6 feet away, holding a tray of shrimp cocktail, recording every word. Because in my apron pocket, I had a wire. One of the developers, an older man with silver hair, leaned in. Isn't that technically illegal? Vivian waved her hand dismissively. Only if you get caught. And we have very good lawyers, very expensive lawyers. That's the difference between people like us and people like... She gestured vaguely toward me. Them. We know how to work the system. I kept my face neutral, professional. Just the help. But inside, I was smiling. Because that statement, that admission, would become the centerpiece of the federal prosecution. conspiracy, intent, admission of ongoing criminal activity, all on tape, all admissible in court. The next 2 weeks were a blur. I worked 18-hour days. I cross-referenced every transaction, every property deed, every shell company registration. I built timelines. I created visual maps of the money flow. I prepared a presentation that even a jury with no financial background could understand. David reviewed my work. This is airtight, Elena. This is the best evidence package I've seen in 20 years. Is it enough? It's enough to put them away for a very long time. I submitted the final report on Thursday afternoon. 847 pages. Exhibits included. Organized, indexed, annotated. The U.S. Attorney's Office called David 2 hours later. They wanted to move immediately. Arrest warrants would be issued within the week. Do they have any idea what's coming? The prosecutor asked. None, I said. They think I'm unemployed. Good, let's keep it that way. The warrants were issued. The plan was set. But I needed to see their faces when it happened. I needed to watch their world collapse. And I knew exactly when it would happen. Vivian's Businesswoman of the Year Gala, 3 days away. The invitation arrived in my mailbox on Monday. Heavy cardstock, gold embossing, addressed to Mr. Marcus Chen and guest. Marcus had sent it to my new apartment. A final humiliation. He wanted me to see what I was missing, what I'd never be part of. The invitation read, "You are cordially invited to celebrate Vivian Ashford Chen receiving the prestigious Businesswoman of the Year Award from the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. Black tie, the Grand Ballroom at the Meridian Hotel. Saturday, May 18th, 7 p.m. There was a handwritten note paper-clipped to it. Marcus's handwriting. Elena, sending this as a courtesy. Feel free to come if you want. Might be good for you to see what success actually looks like. Maybe it'll motivate you. Emmy. I sat on my couch, holding that invitation, and I laughed. Because Marcus had no idea that the arrest warrants had been signed that morning. That the FBI and IRS criminal investigation teams were coordinating the takedown, that Agent Morrison had called me personally to ask if I wanted to be there when it happened. It's your case, Elena, she'd said. You built this. You earned the right to watch it go down. But I need to know, can you handle it? Emotionally? I can handle it, I'd said. Because I wasn't the broken girl who'd signed divorce papers at her father's funeral anymore. I was a forensic accountant who'd just brought down a multi-million-dollar fraud operation. I was the weapon they'd never seen coming. Saturday morning, I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I went shopping. Not at Target, not at Marshall's, at a real boutique. The kind with individual dressing rooms and champagne, and a saleswoman who actually cared about how things fit. I tried on 6 suits before I found the right one. Black, tailored, designer, Italian fabric. The kind of suit that costs 3 months of rent for most people. The kind of suit that costs exactly what I'd budgeted for this moment. Because I'd been saving every bonus, every extra dollar from my salary that I didn't need for rent or food or my dad's funeral expenses. I'd been saving for something important. I just didn't know what until now. The suit fit perfectly. Sharp lines, powerful silhouette. The kind of outfit that makes people take you seriously before you even open your mouth. You look incredible, the saleswoman said. I'll take it, I said. I also bought new shoes, black heels, 4 inches. The kind that make you feel 6 feet tall, even when you're 5'4". And I went to a salon. Got my hair done professionally for the first time in years. Styled, sleek, polished. Looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. I looked expensive. I looked powerful. I looked like someone Vivian Ashford Chen would actually respect. Because when they saw me walk into that ballroom, I wanted them confused. I wanted them off balance. I wanted them to wonder who the hell I'd become while they weren't paying attention. The Meridian Hotel was the most expensive venue in the city. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, the kind of place where valet parking costs $50 and women wear jewelry that costs more than cars. I arrived at 7:15 p.m., fashionably late. I gave my name at the door. The hostess checked her list, looked confused for a moment, then smiled professionally. Of course, Ms. Martinez. Enjoy the evening. Martinez, my maiden name. I'd gone back to it after the divorce papers were filed. Reclaimed it. I walked into the ballroom. 400 people. Black tie, champagne flowing, a 10-piece orchestra playing something classical and elegant. Round. Tables with white linens and centerpieces that probably cost more than my monthly rent. And on a stage at the front of the room, a podium. Behind it, a massive screen displaying the Chamber of Commerce logo and Vivian's professional headshot. I scanned the crowd, found them immediately. Vivian holding court near the bar, red dress, diamond necklace that caught the light every time she moved, laughing with a group of business leaders and politicians. Raymond looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo, already drinking, standing slightly apart from Vivian, like he wanted to be anywhere else. Diane playing MC. She was on stage with a microphone, introducing the program. Black sequined dress, hair extensions, every inch the Instagram influencer. Marcus was standing near the front with Amber. She was beautiful. I'll give her that. Late 20s. Blonde. Perfect figure in a white cocktail dress. She was laughing at something Marcus said, touching his arm. Marcus looked happy. Happier than I'd seen him in years. That should have hurt, but it didn't. Because I knew something they didn't. I was halfway to the bar when Diane saw me. I watched her face change. Confusion, then recognition, then something like horror. She grabbed her phone, frantically texting someone. 10 seconds later, Marcus looked up. Our eyes met across the ballroom. His face went pale. He said something to Amber, then started walking toward me, fast. Elena. He reached me before I made it to the bar. What are you doing here? You invited me, I said calmly. Remember? The invitation you sent to my apartment? You said I should come see what success looks like. I didn't think you'd actually, here I am. He looked me up and down, taking in the suit, the hair, the shoes, the version of me he'd never seen before. You look different, he said. I am different. Vivian appeared at his shoulder. She'd spotted me. Her smile was frozen in place. The kind of smile you give someone when you can't make a scene but desperately want to. Elena, how unexpected. She looked at Marcus. I thought we agreed that under the circumstances. I used the +1 invitation Marcus sent, I said. I hope that's not a problem. It said, and guest. I'm his guest. Technically, we're still married. The divorce isn't final for another 2 weeks. Vivian's smile tightened. Of course. How thoughtful of you to come. Though I'm surprised you could afford the parking. Valet is quite expensive here. I managed, I said. A waiter passed with champagne. I took a glass. My hands were steady. I'd practiced this, rehearsed it. I knew exactly what I was doing. Well, Vivian said, I hope you enjoy the evening. It's quite an honor being recognized by the Chamber of Commerce. Perhaps someday you'll accomplish something worth celebrating. Perhaps, I said. She walked away. Marcus hesitated. Elena, I don't know what you're trying to prove by being here, but I'm not trying to prove anything. Marcus, I'm just here for the show. What show? I smiled. You'll see. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. I need to go. Amber's wondering where I am. Just don't make a scene, okay? I won't, I said. And I meant it because I wasn't going to make the scene. The FBI was. At 7:45, Diane took the stage. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight to celebrate my incredible mother, Vivian Ashford Chen. Applause. Vivian waved from her table, gracious and regal. As many of you know, my mother built Ashford Chen Properties from the ground up. She's a self-made success story. A woman who refused to let anyone tell her she couldn't achieve her dreams. She's been my role model, my mentor, and my inspiration. I stood at the back of the ballroom, champagne in hand, and I checked my phone. A text from Agent Morrison. We're in position. 12 agents, 3 vehicles outside. We move at 8:15 during her acceptance speech. Are you ready? I texted back. Ready. Another text came through, this one from David. Elena, this is your case, your work. Whatever happens tonight, you did this. You should be proud. I wasn't sure if proud was the right word, but I was ready. On stage, Diane was introducing a video montage. Before we bring Mom up, we've put together a little tribute video. Please enjoy. The lights dimmed. The screen behind the podium lit up. Photos of Vivian through the years, starting her business, cutting ribbons, shaking hands with mayors and senators, accepting awards, standing in front of buildings she'd developed. The images were accompanied by triumphant music and testimonials from business partners. Vivian is a visionary. She sees opportunities where others see obstacles. She's built an empire through hard work and integrity. I almost laughed. The video ended. Applause filled the ballroom. And then Diane announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the 2024 Businesswoman of the Year I now why. Mother, Vivian Ashford Chen." Vivian stood, adjusted her dress, walked to the stage like a queen ascending to her throne. The applause was thunderous. She reached the podium, accepted the Crystal Award from the chamber president, posed for photos, and then she began her speech. Thank you so much. This is truly an honor." I checked my phone. 8:14 p.m., 1 minute. Success isn't about what you're given. It's about what you build. I've spent 30 years building this company with integrity, with vision, with 8:15 p.m. The ballroom doors opened. 12 people walked in. Dark suits, FBI and IRSCI badges visible on their belts. The room went silent. Not slowly. Instantly. Like someone had cut the power to everyone's voices. Vivian stopped mid-sentence. Her face registered confusion first, then something else. Recognition. Fear. This was it. The moment everything I'd worked for, everything I'd documented, every humiliation I'd endured, it all came down to this, and Vivian. Vivian finally understood who I really was. Agent Morrison led the group. She was in her late 40s, 23 years with the FBI, and she looked exactly like what she was. Someone who'd done this 100 times before and knew exactly how it would end. She walked through that silent ballroom like she owned it. The orchestra stopped playing. 400 people in evening wear turned to watch, and Vivian stood frozen at the podium, one hand still clutching her Crystal Award, her mouth slightly open. Agent Morrison reached the stage. "Vivian Ashford Chen?" Vivian's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes?" "I'm Special Agent Jennifer Morrison with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I have a warrant for your arrest on 34 counts of tax evasion, money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to defraud the United States government." The room erupted, not with sound, with movement. People standing, craning their necks, pulling out phones. Vivian's face drained of all color. "What? This is my event. This is a mistake. I don't know what you think you—" "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Morrison was reading her Miranda rights. At the Businesswoman of the Year gala, in front of 400 people on stage and under the lights. 2 agents moved to either side of Vivian. One of them gently took the Crystal Award from her hand and set it on the podium. Vivian's eyes swept the ballroom, desperate, looking for help, looking for someone to fix this. And then she saw me, standing at the back of the room. Not surprised, not shocked, not confused, just watching. Our eyes locked, and I saw the exact moment she understood. Her face changed. Confusion became recognition. Recognition became horror. "You," she breathed. "What did you—" "Ma'am," Morrison said firmly, "you need to come with us now." No, this is insane. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my do lawyers are? I'll have your badge. She was still talking when they put the handcuffs on her. Silver bracelets. Click, click. The sound echoed through the silent ballroom. Vivian looked at her wrists like she couldn't comprehend what was happening. "This can't be happening," she said. "This can't." But it was. 4 more agents moved through the crowd. I watched it unfold like a choreographed dance. Agent Torres approached Raymond, who was standing near the bar, scotch glass frozen halfway to his lips. "Raymond Chen?" Yes?" "You're also under arrest. Same charges, plus obstruction of justice and conspiracy. Raymond didn't fight. He just set down his glass and held out his wrists. His face was gray. He looked 10 years older than he had 5 minutes ago. I knew this was coming, he said quietly. I told her we should stop. Sir, you have the right to remain silent. I'll cooperate, Raymond interrupted. I'll tell you everything. I have documents. Evidence. I'll testify. Just, please, I want a deal. Agent Torres nodded. We'll discuss that downtown. Right now, you need to come with us. They led him toward the doors. Vivian saw him, screamed, Raymond, don't you dare, don't you say a word without our lawyer. Raymond didn't look at her. He just kept walking, and I saw Vivian's face crumble. The betrayal, the realization that her husband, her partner in crime for 30 years, was going to flip on her to save himself. But it got worse. 2 agents were moving toward Marcus. He saw them coming, tried to back away, stumbled into a table. Marcus Chen? This is a mistake, Marcus said, his voice high and panicked. I don't know what my parents did, but I wasn't involved. I'm just an employee. Sir, you're listed as a signatory on multiple offshore accounts. You signed documents establishing shell companies. You're a co-conspirator. No, I didn't know what those documents were. My mother just told me to sign. I didn't. You're a 34-year-old MBA graduate who works as VP of Operations. Are you claiming you didn't read the legal documents you signed? Marcus's mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit tax evasion, money laundering, and wire fraud. Amber, standing next to him in her white dress, took 3 steps back, literally distanced herself from him. Wait, Marcus said, turning to her. Amber, call my lawyer. Call. I don't think so, Amber said coldly. I barely know you. She walked away. Just walked away. Left him standing there as the agents handcuffed him. Marcus's face carried the expression of absolute betrayal, of realizing that the woman he'd left me for wanted nothing to do with him now that he was facing prison. It should have felt good. It didn't feel like anything, because I'd stopped caring about Marcus weeks ago. He looked around the ballroom, desperate, and his eyes found mine. Elena, he called. Out. Elena, please, help me. Tell them this is a mistake. Tell them I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just looked at him. The way he'd looked at me in the funeral home hallway when he'd handed me divorce papers and told me I was an embarrassment. Agent Morrison spoke into her radio. Subjects 1, 2, and 4 are in custody. Where's subject 3? Diane was trying to leave. She'd slipped off the stage during the chaos and was speed walking toward the side exit, heels clicking on the marble floor, phone pressed to her ear. 2 agents blocked her path. Diane Chen? I'm calling my lawyer. You can call your lawyer from the federal building. Right now, you're under arrest. For what? I didn't do anything. I'm an influencer. I'm not involved in my family's business. Agent Torres stepped forward. You received over $900,000 in unreported gifts over the past 3 years. You posted evidence of those gifts on social media. You also accepted a salary from Ashford Chen Properties for a position you didn't actually work, which constitutes fraud and embezzlement. Diane's face went white. Those were gifts from my mother. That's not illegal. Gifts over $17,000 per year must be reported to the IRS. Your mother didn't report them. That's tax evasion. And because you knew the money came from illegal sources, which your social media posts prove, by the way, you're an accessory. I want my lawyer. You'll get a phone call. Put your hands behind your back, please. Diane looked at the agents, at the handcuffs, at the 400 people watching her get arrested. And then she did something I didn't expect. She looked at me. Really looked at me. For the first time in 3 years, she actually saw me. This was you, she said. You did this. The broke little nobody. You destroyed my family. I walked forward. Slowly, through the crowd that parted for me like I was someone important. I stopped 3 feet from Diane. Your family destroyed themselves, I said quietly. I just documented it. Every transaction, every shell company, every lie. I did what I was hired to do. I followed the money, and the money led to your mother, your father, your brother, and you. You're a vindictive bitch, Diane spat. No, I said. I'm a forensic accountant. There's a difference. The agents turned her around, put the cuffs on her. Diane was crying now, mascara running. The Instagram influencer facade completely shattered. Ma'am, you need to come with us. They led her toward the doors. All four of them. Vivian, Raymond, Marcus, Diane, the entire Ashford Chen family in handcuffs. Walking through a ballroom full of their friends, their business partners, their social circle, being led away by federal agents. And every single person in that room watched it happen. The ballroom exploded into noise, conversations, shocked exclamations, the frantic clicking of phone cameras. Someone from the Chamber of Commerce was trying to salvage the event. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could all please remain calm. But no one was calm. People were calling their lawyers, their accountants. Anyone who'd ever done business with Ashford Chen Properties was suddenly very concerned about their own legal exposure. I stood in the center of it all, and Agent Morrison walked over to me. Good work, Elena, she said quietly. Your evidence package was airtight. This case is going to make careers. How long? I asked. Sentencing? Depends on how much they cooperate, but with what you've given us, Vivian's looking at 15 to 20 years. Raymond might get a deal if he testifies. Marcus, 8 to 12. Diane, probably 3 to 5 with probation. I nodded. You okay? Morrison asked. Yeah, I said. I'm okay. She handed me a business card. The U.S. attorney will need you for testimony. Depositions start in about 6 weeks. Trial's probably 8 months out. You good with that? I'll be ready. Morrison smiled. I know you will. You're the most thorough investigator I've worked with in 23 years. If you ever want to join the bureau, call me. She walked away, and I stood there in my expensive suit, in the ballroom where my ex-mother-in-law had just been arrested, holding a glass of champagne. Someone touched my arm. It was an older woman, elegant, probably in her 60s. I recognized her from photos. Margaret Westfield, CEO of one of the largest commercial real estate firms in the state. Excuse me, Mike, she said. You're Elena Martinez, aren't you? Yes. The forensic accountant who built the case against Ashford Chen? Word traveled fast. I can't discuss an ongoing federal investigation, I said carefully. She smiled. Of course, I understand. I just wanted to say, well done. Vivian Ashford Chen has been cutting corners and undercutting honest developers for years. A lot of us suspected fraud, but no one could prove it. You did. That takes skill and courage. She handed me her business card. If you're ever looking for consulting work, call me. We could use someone with your talents on retainer. 3 more people approached before I could respond. Business owners, executives, all of them suddenly very interested in the broke housekeeper who'd just taken down one of the most powerful families in the city. But I wasn't done yet, because Vivian had one more thing to say to me, and what happened in the weeks after the arrest. That's when I finally understood what justice actually looks like. I didn't stay at the gala long after the arrests. There was nothing left for me there, just shocked whispers and business cards from people who suddenly wanted to know me, who suddenly saw value in the woman they'd ignored at every family gathering. I walked out of the Meridian Hotel at 8:47 p.m. The valet brought my Honda Civic around, the same 10-year-old car with the dent in the passenger door, the car Vivian had mocked, the car Marcus had said I could keep when he divorced me, like he was doing me some enormous favor. I tipped the valet $20 and drove home. My phone was exploding with texts and missed calls. Diane's friends demanding to know what happened. Marcus's college buddies asking if the arrest was real. Even some reporters who'd somehow gotten my number. I turned my phone off, drove through the city in silence, and when I got home to my small 1-bedroom apartment, I took off the expensive suit, hung it carefully in my closet, and put on sweatpants and my dad's old construction company t-shirt, the one I'd taken from his things after the funeral. I made myself tea, sat on my couch, and I finally let myself feel it. Not victory, not satisfaction, just exhaustion. 3 years of living a double life. 3 years of being underestimated and belittled. 3 years of documentation and investigation and keeping every emotion locked down because I had a job to do. It was over. The case was built, the arrests were made, the evidence was the airtight. I'd done what I set out to do. Now, I just felt tired. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was in my home office working on a new case. Embezzlement at a nonprofit. Nothing as high profile as Ashford Chen, but important work. The kind of work I was good at. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but some instinct made me pick up. Elena Martinez. You have a collect call from the Metropolitan Detention Center. Will you accept charges from inmate Vivian Chen? My heart stopped. Vivian was calling me. From jail. I should have hung up, but I didn't. I'll accept. I heard a click, then Vivian's voice. But not the imperious, confident voice I was used to. This voice was smaller, tired, defeated. Elena. Vivian. I suppose you're very proud of yourself, she said. I'm not, actually. Liar. You destroyed my family, my business, everything I built. You must be thrilled. I leaned back in my chair. I didn't destroy anything, Vivian. You destroyed it. Yourself. I just showed everyone what you'd been doing for 15 years. We treated you like family. You treated me like hired help, I interrupted. You handed me mops at Christmas dinner. You made me sit at the children's table. You called me a burden and an embarrassment. You mocked my clothes, my car, my background, and your son, your precious son, served me divorce papers at my father's funeral. So no, Vivian, you didn't treat me like family. You treated me like I was beneath you, like I was nothing. And you got so comfortable with that narrative that you never bothered to ask what I actually did for a living. You lied to us, she said, her voice rising. You infiltrated my family under false pretenses. You were spying. I disclosed the conflict of interest to my superiors the moment I realized the case involved your company. I got ethics clearance. Everything I did was legal and by the book. Unlike everything you did. Then, how long were you planning this? I wasn't planning anything. I was assigned a case. I did my job. The fact that you committed crimes isn't my fault. You could have warned us. You could have told Marcus to tell us to stop. That's called obstruction of justice, Vivian. And I'm not going to prison to protect people who never protected me. I heard her breath catch. My lawyer says I'm looking at 15 years minimum, she said quietly. 15 years? I'll be 73 when I get out, if I live that long. Raymond's testifying against me, did you know that? My own husband. 35 years of marriage, and he's testifying against me to save himself. I know. Marcus is trying to take a plea deal. Says he'll claim he didn't know what he was signing. That I manipulated him. Will it work? No, your evidence is too thorough. Every signature, every transaction, you documented everything. That's my job. She was quiet for a long moment, then, I underestimated you. Yes, you did. I thought you were nobody, nothing. Just some girl from a poor family who got lucky when she married Marcus. I thought you were irrelevant. I know. But you weren't. You were watching us the whole time, taking notes, recording conversations, building a case, and we never saw it coming because we were too busy looking down on you. That was the point, wasn't it? You let us underestimate you. You played into it. The modest clothes, the old car, the quiet demeanor. You made yourself invisible. I didn't respond because she was right. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, Vivian said. Smarter than all of us, apparently. I'm good at my job, Vivian, that's all. No, it's more than that. You're ruthless. You let us humiliate you for 3 years and you never once broke character. You never once gave us a hint of what you were really doing. That takes a special kind of cold calculation. Or maybe, I said quietly, it just takes knowing that justice is more important than pride. I suppose you want me to apologize, she said. I said no. No? An apology from you would be meaningless. You're not sorry for what you did to me. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. You're right, she said, and she sounded surprised by her own admission. I'm not sorry for how I treated you. I'm not even sure I was wrong. You didn't fit in our world. You weren't one of us. I never wanted to be one of you, Vivian. I just wanted to be treated like a human being. But you couldn't even do that. So this is revenge. No, this is justice. Revenge is personal. Justice is professional. I didn't fabricate evidence. I didn't lie. I didn't manipulate. I just documented reality. Your reality. The reality you hid from everyone behind expensive clothes and charitable donations and awards for ethical business practices. I heard her crying. Actually crying. It should have felt good. It didn't feel like anything. I'm going to die in prison, she whispered. Maybe you'll get a reduced sentence if you cooperate. If you return the money, if you show remorse, but that's up to you and your lawyers. I'm not involved in sentencing decisions. You've taken everything from me. You took everything from yourself, Vivian. I just held up a mirror. She hung up and the line went dead. And I sat there in my home office, staring at my phone, feeling nothing. Empty, hollow. I'd won, but it didn't feel like winning. The trial was a media circus. Federal prosecutors love high-profile cases, and Ashford Chen had everything: wealth, fraud, a sprawling conspiracy, and a working-class hero who'd brought it all down. I testified for 3 days, walked the jury through every transaction, every shell company, every offshore account, every piece of evidence in that 847-page report. The defense attorneys tried to rattle me, tried to paint me as vindictive, as someone with an axe to grind. Ms. Martinez, isn't it true that you were angry about your divorce? I was sad about my divorce, I said calmly. But my feelings about my marriage don't change the mathematical reality of tax fraud. You must have wanted revenge against the Chen family. I wanted to do my job. Revenge is emotional. Accounting is factual. The numbers don't lie, regardless of how I felt about the people involved. But you let them treat you poorly for years. You documented their behavior. Isn't that vindictive? No, that's thorough. In financial investigations, context matters. Understanding the relationship dynamics helped me understand how the fraud was structured and concealed. It's standard investigative practice. They couldn't shake me, because every answer was true. Vivian's lawyers tried to argue entrapment, tried to claim I'd manipulated her into making incriminating statements. Agent Morrison testified, Ms. Martinez wore a wire with proper authorization after establishing probable cause. She attended family events she was invited to. She didn't coerce anyone. The subjects incriminated themselves through voluntary statements about their criminal activities. Raymond testified against Vivian. He provided physical documents, bank statements, emails, everything. Vivian's lawyers tried to paint him as a liar trying to save himself, but my evidence corroborated every single thing he said. Marcus tried to claim ignorance, said he thought the offshore accounts were legal, that his mother told him they were for estate planning. The prosecutor pulled up his MBA transcript. Mr. Chen, you took 2 courses in corporate tax law. You graduated with honors. Are you claiming you didn't understand what a Cayman Islands shell company is used for? Marcus had no answer. Diane tried to claim she was just a spoiled daughter who didn't ask questions, that she had no idea where the money came from. The prosecutor played a video. One of Diane's Instagram stories from 18 months ago. She was giving a money tips talk to her followers. In the video, she said, "My mom taught me that the key to wealth is knowing how to work the system. Rich people don't play by the same rules. We have accountants who know how to optimize everything." She'd literally admitted on camera that she knew the family was avoiding taxes. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts, all 4 of them. The sentencing hearing was 3 weeks later. Vivian got 18 years in federal prison, $47 million in restitution. All assets seized. Raymond got 3 years, reduced for cooperation. Full restitution. All assets seized. Marcus got 10 years. Professional licenses revoked. All assets seized. Diane got 5 years. $900,000 in fines, 3 years probation after release, banned from social media as a condition of probation. The judge was a woman in her 60s, Judge Patricia Brennan, known for tough sentences in white-collar cases. Before she dismissed the court, she said something I'll never forget. This case represents everything wrong with how we think about wealth in this country. The defendants believed their money made them untouchable, that they were above the law, that people like Miss Martinez, people from working-class backgrounds, were beneath their notice. That arrogance is what led to their downfall. Let this be a lesson. Justice doesn't care about your net worth. The law applies to everyone equally. Life moved on. That's the thing nobody tells you about revenge, or justice, or whatever you want to call it. After the dramatic conclusion, after the arrests and the trial and the sentencing, life just continues. I went back to work. Sterling and Associates promoted me to senior partner. At 33, I was the youngest partner in the firm's history. My salary doubled. I got my own office with windows overlooking the city. David called me into his office the day after the promotion was announced. "You know what you did, right?" he said. "The Ashford Chen case is going to be taught in forensic accounting programs for the next 20 years. You built a perfect case, not good, perfect." I just did my job. No, Elena, you did more than that. You maintained cover for 3 years in a hostile environment. You documented everything with surgical precision. You never let emotion compromise the investigation. That's not just good accounting, that's art. The case did get attention. I was asked to speak at conferences, to teach workshops, to consult on other high-profile fraud investigations. Margaret Westfield kept her word. Her company hired me on a retainer, 6 figures annually, just to have access to my expertise. I bought a house, nothing fancy. A small 2-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, but it was mine. Paid for with money I'd earned through my own skills. I still drove the Honda Civic. People asked me why. "Elena, you can afford a new car now." But the Honda ran fine. It was reliable. It got me where I needed to go. And every time I drove it, I remembered who I'd been, where I'd come from, the girl who worked 2 jobs to pay for college, the daughter of a construction worker who taught her that honest work had dignity. I never wanted to forget that. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, 6 months after sentencing. I just finished a consultation with a client, a healthcare company that suspected embezzlement in their billing department. I checked my mail, bills, junk, and one envelope with a prison postmark. FCI Alderson, Federal Correctional Institution, Minimum Security Women's Prison in West Virginia. From V. Chen, inmate, Uter 4783901. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it away unread. I'd moved on. I didn't need Vivian's words in my head anymore, but curiosity won. I opened it. The letter was short. 1 page, handwritten on prison stationery. Vivian's usually perfect penmanship was shakier now, less confident. "Elena, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to care. But my therapist here says I should write it anyway. She says it's part of taking accountability. I underestimated you. That's what I told you on the phone 6 months ago, and it's still true. But it's more than that. I underestimated you because I needed to. Because if I'd seen you clearly, seen your intelligence, your competence, your strength, I would have had to acknowledge that everything I believed about myself was a lie. I told myself I was self-made, that I'd built my success through hard work and vision, but the truth is, I built it through fraud and arrogance and stepping on people I thought were beneath me. People like you. You were everything I was afraid of. Someone who actually earned their success. Someone who didn't need to cheat or lie or steal. Someone who was genuinely good at what they did, and I couldn't stand it. So I treated you like you were nothing. I convinced myself you were nothing. Because if you were something, if you were valuable and skilled and worthy of respect, then what did that make me? I'm 70 years old. I'll be 88 if I live to see the end of my sentence. I've lost everything. My company, my reputation, my freedom. My husband testified against me to save himself. My children blame me for ruining their lives. My friends have all disappeared. And I have a lot of time to think about how I got here. The answer is you, but not the way you might think. You didn't destroy me. I destroyed myself. You just refused to look away. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not even sure I want it. I'm just telling you that you were right. Justice is more important than pride. I spent my whole life prioritizing the wrong things: image over integrity, wealth over honesty, power over decency. And you? You prioritized the right things, even when it cost you, even when it meant letting us humiliate you, even when it meant being patient for years while you built your case. That takes a strength I never had. I underestimated you. I won't make that mistake again, though I suppose it doesn't matter now. Vivian. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a file folder. Not because I forgave her, not because her apology changed anything, but because it was a receipt, documentation, proof that justice had been served, proof that the truth had consequences, proof that you can't cheat and lie and step on people forever without eventually facing who you really are. I filed it under Ashford Chen case closed, and I went back to my life. 3 months after Vivian's letter, I started a nonprofit. I'd been thinking about it for a while. All that money the Ashford Chen family had to pay in restitution, $47 million, went back to the IRS, to the government, to offset the taxes they'd stolen from public services. That was right. That was justice. But I kept thinking about all the other people like me. People trapped in bad marriages or abusive families. People who wanted to leave but couldn't because they didn't have financial independence. People who were underestimated and controlled through money. So I created the Martinez Foundation for Financial Literacy and Independence. The mission: teach people, especially women from working class backgrounds, about money. How to build credit, how to save, how to invest, how to recognize financial abuse, how to document assets in case of divorce, how to protect themselves. I funded it with money from my consulting work. Margaret Westfield donated. So did several other business leaders who'd watched the Ashford Chen trial and understood what financial independence meant. We offered free workshops, one-on-one coaching, legal referrals for people dealing with financial fraud in their marriages. The first workshop had 12 attendees. 6 months later, we had a waiting list of 300. One of the attendees was a woman named Sarah, 42, married to a successful businessman who controlled all the money, who gave her an allowance and monitored every purchase, who told her she was too stupid to understand finances. She came to our workshop on recognizing financial abuse. 3 months later, she filed for divorce. She documented everything, just like I'd taught her. She got half his assets and full custody of their kids. She sent me a card. You taught me that being underestimated is only permanent if you believe it. Thank you for showing me I was strong enough to leave. That card is framed in my office because that's what justice actually looks like. Not revenge. Not watching your enemies suffer. Justice is using what you learned from your pain to help other people avoid the same pain. Justice is turning your worst experiences into something meaningful. Justice is refusing to let the people who underestimated you define who you become. I was invited to give the keynote address at the National Forensic Accountants Conference. 1 year after the Ashford Chen sentencing, the ballroom was full. 800 accountants, investigators, federal agents, people who did what I did. People who understood the meticulous, unglamorous work of following money trails and building evidence. I stood at the podium in a gray suit, still not designer, but well-made and professional, and I told them my story. Not for sympathy, not for praise, but because I wanted them to understand something important. The Ashford Chen case succeeded because I was invisible, I said. Because the subjects underestimated me so completely that they never thought to guard their words around me. They handed me mops and made me serve drinks and treated me like furniture, and I let them. Because being underestimated is the greatest investigative advantage you can have. I clicked to the next slide. A photo of me at that Christmas dinner, holding a mop, wearing Target clothes. This is me building a federal case, and I said, this is what good investigative work sometimes looks like. Not glamorous, not dramatic, just patient, methodical. Documentation while everyone around you assumes you're nobody. Next slide. The arrest photo of Vivian being led out of the gala in handcuffs. And this is what justice looks like. Not revenge, not personal satisfaction, just the mathematical consequences of fraud meeting the reality of evidence. I looked out at the audience. Some of you will work cases where you're personally connected to the subjects, where the investigation hurts, where you have to watch people you once loved or respected commit crimes and document every moment of it. And it will be hard. It will cost you emotionally. I paused. But here's what I want you to remember. Your worth is not determined by how other people see you. Your value is not defined by their respect or lack of it. You can be underestimated and still be extraordinary. You can be invisible and still be powerful. You can be dismissed as just a housekeeper and still be the person who brings down an empire. The applause started before I finished my sentence. It lasted 3 minutes. I stood there at that podium looking at 800 people who understood exactly what it took to do what I'd done. And I finally felt it. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just peace. It's been 2 years since the arrests. Vivian is in year 2 of her 18-year sentence. She works in the prison library. She's apparently teaching other inmates how to read financial statements so they can understand the crimes they're in for. Her lawyer tells me she's become a model prisoner. Raymond served his 3 years, got released 6 months ago. He's living in a small apartment in Florida working as a bookkeeper. He sent me a card on my birthday. Thank you for not destroying me completely. I deserved worse. Marcus is in year 2 of his 10-year sentence. Amber never visited him, not once. Last I heard, she married a doctor and moved to California. Marcus's lawyer says he's trying to get his sentence reduced for good behavior. It probably won't work. Diane got released after 3 years. She's prohibited from social media, so her influencer career is over. She's working as a receptionist at a dental office. She doesn't make much money. She has to pay $900 in restitution every month. She'll be paying it off for years. She sent me a message through a mutual acquaintance 6 months ago. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I was a terrible person. I'm trying to be better. I never responded because some apologies come too late to matter. And me, I'm 35 now, senior partner at Sterling and Associates. My foundation has helped 847 people achieve financial independence. I've spoken at 12 conferences. I've consulted on 6 major fraud cases. I still live in my modest house. I still drive the Honda Civic. And I still think about my dad sometimes. Wonder what he'd think of everything that happened. I think he'd be proud. Not because I took down a wealthy family, not because I got revenge, but because I did the right thing, even when it was hard, even when it cost me, even when no one was watching or appreciating it. I did the work. I documented the truth. I let the numbers speak for themselves. And in the end, that was enough. Last week, I got a call from a young woman, 26 years old, recently married. Her in-laws were treating her terribly, calling her lazy because she worked from home, mocking her clothes, making her feel small. She was crying on the phone. I just don't know what to do, she said. They make me feel like I'm nothing. What do you do for work? I asked. I'm a software engineer. I make good money. But they don't know that. My husband told them I'm unemployed because he's embarrassed that I make more than him. Do they own a business? I asked. Yeah, tech consulting. Why? I smiled. No reason, just curious. Listen, here's what you're going to do. You're going to start documenting everything. Every comment, every interaction, every time they make you feel small. Write it down. Record it if you legally can. Save everything. Why? Because someday you might need receipts. And when that day comes, you'll be glad you have them. She was quiet for a moment. Did something like this happen to you? Yes, I said. And I survived it. You will too. By remembering that being underestimated is only permanent if you believe it. She thanked me, hung up, and I sat in my office, looking at the framed card from Sarah, the case files from Ashford Chen, the speaking invitations from conferences around the country. And I thought, this is what justice looks like. Not revenge, not satisfaction. Just the quiet knowledge that you did the right thing, that you used your pain to help others. that you refuse to let the people who underestimated you write your story. I opened my laptop, started working on my next case, because the work continues. The documentation continues. And somewhere out there, someone else is being underestimated. Someone else is being told they're nothing. Someone else needs to know that numbers don't lie and neither does justice. If you're watching this and you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been told you're not good enough, smart enough, worthy enough, I want you to know something. They're wrong. Your worth is not defined by their respect. Your value is not determined by their acknowledgement. You can be invisible and still be powerful. You can be dismissed and still be extraordinary. And sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage you'll ever have. So document everything, stay patient, do the work, and let the truth speak for itself. Because in the end, the math always wins. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated? What did you do about it? Let's build a community of people who refuse to be defined by other people's limitations. People who turn their pain into power, people who understand that justice isn't about revenge, it's about receipts. Thank you for watching.